blessings, whoever you are, wherever you are, why ever you are, the way you are, and whenever you are watching this, as you are. Bell, Rocco. Code trickling through around the topic of not getting caught in who others think you are. Not getting caught in it, because it's like a web. It is like a projection mapping. If you've ever seen that technology, it's called projection mapping. It's like a projector shining light onto a 3D surface that then has to recognize, like, okay, there's a rectangle, there's a triangle, and it's like a scene. Sometimes people use that in like stage design, and it's fascinating technology, sidebar. But it happens in people's consciousness when they see us through incorrect lighting or incorrect sighting. Speaking of which. And so this is where it's so important to have self-awareness and self-gnosis, which is the only kind of gnosis there really is. Because if we have insecurities or wounding and trauma that's not healed, it's not reconciled, it's not integrated in a particular area of our psyche, of our field, of our electromagnetics, of our energy body, of our pain body, then that's the exact spot in our web, in our grid of identity. Because our identity, yeah, we are the soul, and the soul is it is a sunshine expression, and that sunshine expression expresses itself into a multiple noded grid of identity. And if we have one node or two or three or however many of those nodes are weak or undernourished or improperly attempting to anchor as a false version of ourselves, meaning I think I'm not that great, or if I have a body issues, or if I have issues with my masculinity, if I have issues with my father told me that I don't try hard enough when I was a kid, and then now I'm an adult and someone says, yeah, well, only if you tried hard it'd be different. And instead of reacting from recognizing clearly that I already did everything that I could possibly do, that person's current phrase triggers me back to young version of self, and I am locked into that old identity. And this has happened recently where, someone in their own cobwebs and in their own trauma projects onto me their belief, and I have density or non-clarity in that particular topic, in that particular theme of myself. And so it's harder for me to navigate in that moment. But in getting space and in getting distance from that person and from that environment that has basically misperception coded into its framework, coded into its projector. So it's not projecting clear light, it's projecting through a lens, and that lens has cracks in the lens. It has, when we're driving in a car, we all talk about clean the windshield. Well, why? Because the image on the other side of this glass, that's a car, that's a building, and our ability to see clearly is highly influenced by how clear this shield is. It's shielding us from the wind, but it's also the barrier that light is moving through to get to us while we're inside the car. And that's how our ego is. That's how our trauma body is. The ego, I call it the time-based identity structure, or the TIBIS, because it's kind of like this, it's a shield for our identity, for our sense of me. And so there's this code around getting proximity, distance, creating space, and getting back into nature, getting back to our true nature, and getting back in touch with God's word, Spirit's voice, Spirit's whisper, our soul's true essence, the vortex, our inner being, when we're in alignment with our inner being, someone says something about us that we know isn't true, and we're like, wow, that's so not true. That's not me. That's obviously you. In that moment, when we have that clear sight, it's easier to have compassion, because it's easier to recognize that that's not them looking at us. That's them looking at themselves through the mirror of us. And this can happen to us too. We can think we see something clearly and all of a sudden realize, like, damn, I projected onto that person. That was me. In that moment, it's so helpful to take accountability. If you added distortion, you say, that was me. Now, there's no me, there's no I. There's no one to say sorry it isn't. I say bullshit on that. In navigating emotion and navigating trauma, I feel it really, really is helpful. And maybe this is just my personal love language, but I've found it very helpful when someone recognizes the part they play in it, and recognizing, yo, I brought that aspect of that distortion to this situation. That's on me. And then if you can recognize why it came up, then you're actually helping the other person have compassion for you while you're having compassion for yourself. That's transparency. That's crystallinity. That's Christ consciousness. Consciousness of your Christos is consciousness of your soul. And if you have awareness of that while navigating life in all of its complexity with another and their trauma, that's incredible work. That's incredible alchemy. So if we can take accountability for our junk, for our distortions that we bring, that's how we lead by example and assist others in them taking accountability for themselves, even though we can't ever make anybody take accountability for anything. But we can at least recognize, was that us? Was that the reflection of us in the mirror of them? And the more and more you realize there is no them, it's all us. If we're interacting with them, then there's this karmic tapestry of contract. We're contracted here together. We're collapsed here together in this density to learn something together. So what's in it? What's in it for us? At least that we can address that aspect of it. We can find the light in the experience that might have some darkness. So that's it.